Okay, if you do know who Colleen Ballinger and Trisha Paytas are, but you don't know what the show Creamerie is about, then you have to watch the show. It's not. I know the name Creamerie is a bit, but trust me, it's really not that inappropriate. There's obviously some scenes that are disturbing to say the least, but not in the way that you might think. Like, other than men just getting their scrotum churned up in a machine, there's nothing else that's really triggering. At least I hope so. But obviously, it's not for children. Definitely not for children, as you can tell from the 5 minutes I've already said. Disclaimer: little kids, click off this video right now. But I had a blast watching it. That's probably not the right word to use. But yeah, it's by Creamerie. It's because the three Asian women, who are the main characters, they work on a creamery farm. I think that's how you say it. Creamery. Oh, I don't need to say creamery farm. It's a creamery. It's where you get the cream from the cows, and it's set in New Zealand. So the accents are very strange. I don't want to just say it's because they're Asian, but it definitely adds to the. Because I'm Asian as well, but it adds to the eccentricity of the show, if that makes sense. Like, I think shows that New Zealand is like the great spot for these kinds of like really thriller, supernatural shows, because there's always some weird element that I think New Zealand has as kind of an isolated country. Well, at least as coming from Australia, I see them like that, view them in that sense, that that little weird country next door. It's sort of like how America makes fun of Canadians, that sort of thing, except way more extreme. But yeah, the show is just brilliant, and it's great show for this day and age. It's basically about so these three women are living, it's like in the future, maybe like a few hundred years into the future, where the men have all died of a disease that obviously kills only men, or they've succumbed to the virus, and all the remaining men that are still alive are just sent to this like wellness space. I'm saying wellness because it's what they do to them there is probably not the best. It's basically like China's concentration camps, but for men. And it's obviously showing the extreme feminine, you know, everything in moderation. Like I agree with feminism as much as the next person, but this show obviously proves that. One of the iconic lines in the second season, which I'm not quite sure is the last season or the of the entire series, if it's only 2 seasons, I'm yet to work that out. But by the way it ended, I was just like, yeah, this would probably be a great place to end. But yeah, in season 2, the man on the show had a great line. He's obviously one of the few surviving men left who have escaped the asylum, or whatever you want to call it, where all the men are kept and their sperm is like sent and it's kept in this lab, and it's just like really insane. And he says he's obviously arguing with one of the main characters, and he's saying it's not sexist if you're better at it. And that line just stayed with me because that's just such a really great line, brilliant. Like, it's a perfect encapsulation of today's society and what it means. Like, that's always sort of the mentality that my mum has had. In terms of sexism, like, my mum is obviously definitely a feminist, but she doesn't really agree with terms of, like, she does say that I think men are better at, for example, construction work. Like, she's not trying to be sexist. That's just the way it is, I guess. And that's probably why we don't see many construction workers or a female, or because there's just already a capacity of people who can work for it. And of course, I can wholeheartedly agree with equality on both sides. But obviously, I guess men do have they're obviously different gender, so they have a unique set of traits, I guess, that we don't really have, and therefore that makes there were more men, I guess, in the first place. That's why they hired more men, was not only because of the people were assholes, but they genuinely, men did have those stamina and those like qualities that women, not many women have. Like, I'm not saying no women have that, but it's more men than female is what I'm trying to say. So kudos to whichever writer added that in, because that is such a brilliant line. And yeah, it stayed with me, as you can tell, and I don't remember many lines from shows, so there you go. And but yeah, I really needed to make this video. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, obviously, although it's very difficult to. So I would suggest you probably don't watch this video. You've probably clicked off anyway, but if you're still here, and I'm going to put a spoiler warning. I just said I wasn't going to give away any spoilers, but I think everyone lies in that sense. Like, I am going to say what's happened, because otherwise it's not going to properly explain what the comparison I'm making, because the comparison I'm making is in terms of Colleen Ballinger and Trisha Paytas. Immediately when I watched the last episode of season 2, I was like, that just perfectly encapsulates Colleen as a person. The woman who runs wellness in the show, who is completely evil, her name is Lane. No, not that Lane. I know what you're thinking, Lane from Gilmore Girls. She reminds me a lot of Kate Moss, and I don't know why. But not that Kate Moss is evil, but they resemble each other. And so anyway, the way Lane is and Colleen, they just like because when I watched Adam McIntyre's videos, because I'm an avid watcher of Adam McIntyre, I'm not ashamed to say that. Go subscribe to him, and I'm not associated with him. I just think genuinely has a great channel, great, well thought out, researched videos, and because his videos is what makes me get inspiration from my videos, because without the point he made in his video, I wouldn't be talking to you about this very thing and this comparison that I made with the show Creamerie, which is based on birth and women's like fertility and embryos and all that. And so it made me think Lane as the antagonist of that show is what's scary is Colleen is Lane in real life. Like, we have a Lane in real life, and that is actually terrifying. Like, obviously she's not storing men's sperm in a lab and sucking their scrotum in a machine. Like, obviously Colleen is none of that. But what Colleen, her like manipulation in her head and her like mental state is just so messed up, and it's crazy. Like, the way she was talking to Trisha and demeaning and undermining her pregnancy, which is Adam said was the only reason why she got invited to Colleen's house, was just so she could be envious, and Colleen loved to see her try not to feel pressured to live up to her pregnancy or some weird shit like that. And so that is basically what comes back to Lane in Creamerie, was Lane at the very last episode. She and, I for some reason I forget all the three main characters' names, but if you have watched the show, you'll probably know who I'm talking about. It's the Asian lady who gets pregnant, and by the time the show ends, she's carrying that child, and then they've grabbed Lane and took her on the boat, because that's the only way the three main characters and the man can be safely leave New Zealand, where they're getting controlled by a matriarchy, and it's like it's like a dictatorship. And so they have Lane, and they've like tied her up so she can't escape. But then it's the Asian lady's turn, and she's the pregnant lady's turn to go, like, be a prison guard for her, basically. I know I'm doing a really great job explaining things. That's just who I am. But so she walks over and sees Lane, and Lane is like, so what child are you carrying? And from memory, I could be totally wrong, but this is basically it. The pregnant lady says, I love how I remember the antagonist's name, but not the protagonist, the good person. Anyway, that's just how impactful Lane is. And then the pregnant lady says, it's a girl, I think, because Lane says, it's not a boy, is it? And because the whole show is, and then Lane is like, I'm carrying a boy child. She says something along the lines of, I knew it. Even if I'm in, you're never gonna live up to the pregnancy that I had. And she starts laughing like maniacally. And that's just what I could imagine Colleen doing. That's basically exactly what Colleen is doing to Trisha. Creamerie nailed that part perfectly, because that they probably weren't aware of it. Maybe they were, but that is exactly what has happened between Trisha and Colleen. And it's like, in the worst, very worst sense, obviously, but it just shows how extreme, like, people can get as a character, and it just shows that Colleen is truly an awful human being if she's basically resembles someone from that show. And so the pregnant lady gets obviously really upset because this woman is laughing at her. This woman who she thought she was done for, because they finally like, I don't want, what's the right word? She's an adult, so I'm not going to say kidnapped her, but they arrested her, basically, even though they're not the police, because she was going to kill the pregnant lady. And so the fact that she knows there's no way out for her, but she's still laughing at the pregnant lady, that's just, like, insane. Like, none of us could ever picture that happening. And so then she pushes the lady off. Yeah, I'm giving away everything, sorry. She pushes the lady off Lane off the boat, and Lane falls obviously right in the water. It's such a great cinematography of her just landing in the blue ocean. And then, because the deal they made was with the woman who owned the boat, was they have Lane so she can bring them to Sydney, because she's an Australian actor, and she was like, I'll sell her or some weird stuff like that if you prove to me that this person exists or something. And so the fact that Lane's gone is now they've broken their promise to the lady who owns the boat. So the other two Asian ladies find out what she's done, and they're like, what have you done? Like, they're already out of New Zealand. There's no turning back. And Lane's body, she's obviously dead now. And so yeah, that's basically the ending. It's such a great cliffhanger, literally. And yeah, just go watch it if you can. I don't know if it's aired in America, because obviously I don't live in America, but because a lot of our shows, obviously New Zealand's a friend of ours, so they always get sent to Australia to watch, but they're actually quite good, as you can tell. I watched Educators after that, which is like one of my favourite ever New Zealand shows. It's brilliant writing. It's an improv comedy, so it's like really well done. The comedians click so well with each other. So I might do a video on that. But for now, I'm going to leave you with some clips here, basically from Adam McIntyre's video that reminded me a lot of Creamerie, and it'll probably make you better understand what I'm saying. So thanks for watching.
Invited Trisha into her house a couple months, like a month or so after she was sending, Johnny and I all the shit. So when you see Colleen here with Trisha, just know that mere weeks before this, Colleen was making fun of Trisha's body and doing it to the fans. They made fun of the fact that, you know, Trisha was so, what was the word? So aggressively single, and that she would never have a baby, because they made fun of the fact that she was with Sean, and then they said that Sean was gay, and then they said about Jason, and Jason didn't love her. So that was the only reason that Trisha did get invited to these. And again, the only reason I'm saying that is because Trisha now has a baby that is healthy. So anyway, they do this 42-minute video where Colleen doesn't shut the fuck up the entire time about how blessed she is that she's finally been given a baby. This time when they had a mukbang, Trisha was invited over because Colleen found out that she was pregnant, and she wanted to tell Trisha and have Trisha do a mukbang. So everything centered around Colleen getting things that Trisha has wanted her entire life. So this day, the public didn't know it yet, but Colleen was pregnant. And she let Trisha know first, then filmed this mukbang after telling Trisha, or before, or whatever the fuck, on the same day at least. And that was this one. And then this final one was then when Trisha had a baby, and it's called Our Crazy Birth Stories, and Colleen makes the entire video one-upping Trisha, because Colleen said, yes, you gave birth to your baby, but I just gave birth to twins. And the entire video is Colleen telling Trisha that her birth is inferior because Trisha had a C-section instead of an actual birth.